The Louvre looked like any other morning. Visitors moved through the halls. Guards watched the rooms. In the center of one ornate gallery, the crown jewels sat behind glass. They were famous. They were known. They were supposed to be safe. The Louvre is a palace turned museum. It holds some of the most important objects of French history. Visitors come to see art that has been kept for centuries. The gallery where the crown jewels were displayed sits in a bright, ornate hall. The pieces there are symbols of the nation and its past. On a quiet Sunday morning, October 19th, 2025, a small group of people carried out a plan that surprised everyone. A small team arrived from the riverside of the building near a section under repair. They brought a vehicle with an extendable lift mounted on its bed. They parked it beside a repair area so it would not draw attention. Two of them stepped onto the raised platform. They wore high-visibility vests and masks. They looked like workmen who belonged at the site. The plan showed signs of preparation. The lift was parked where repair work was already underway, so it did not look odd at first glance. They wore workman clothing to fit in and to avoid early suspicion. The lift climbed to a second-floor balcony. The thieves reached a window and began to work on it. They used power tools, a disc cutter and angle grinders, to cut through metal and glass. Sparks flew. The sound was harsh and fast. They forced the window open and entered the gallery. This was done while visitors were in the museum, and during the hours the museum was open. The alarms in the room sounded as they broke the vitrines. The thieves did not linger. Inside the gallery, the group moved directly to two display cases with a single purpose. They reached in, grabbed specific pieces, and then retreated the way they had come. This is the real video filmed by security guards in the Louvre. It shows two robbers leaving the crime scene. The entire entry and exit took only a few minutes. This is a real video shot by a tourist, showing one of the thieves trying to reach one of the jewels. What they took were pieces tied to the story of French rulers. The items included tiaras, necklaces, brooches, a diadem, earrings, and sets that once belonged to empresses and queens. These were part of a collection linked to past rulers and royal families. One crown, heavy with stones, was dropped or left behind during the escape. It was later found damaged in a street nearby. The most famous stones in the gallery were not taken. The hall was priceless in history and in money.
The crown jewels stolen from the Louvre Museum in Paris on Sunday morning are worth an estimated 88 million euros or 102 million US dollars.
The stolen items from the Louvre include a pearl tiara and a corsage bow brooch belonging to Empress Eugenie, wife of Napoleon III. An emerald necklace and earrings once owned by Empress Marie-Louise, Napoleon Bonaparte's second wife. A sapphire tiara, necklace, and a single sapphire earring that belonged to the French queens Marie-Amélie and Hortense. And a reliquary brooch. Officials described the stolen objects as carrying great historic value beyond their material worth. That made selling the pieces in their original form extremely difficult. The escape had been planned to be fast and simple. Two riders waited on motor scooters beside the river. The people in the group moved quickly and then left the same way they had come. The thieves went down the lift, met their riders, and sped off along the riverbank. They tried to set fire to the lift basket before they fled, but staff stopped the fire from starting. In the chaos, the heavy crown tumbled from their hands. Visitors in nearby rooms were moved out by staff and the museum closed for the day. Investigators treated the scene like a crime lab. Forensic teams began their work, dusting for prints and gathering biological traces from tools, helmet liners, and the controls on the lift. They bagged clothes and bits of equipment left behind. They collected fingerprints, DNA traces, and other evidence from the lift controls and from objects left behind. They copied surveillance footage from inside the museum corridors and from street cameras outside. They also gathered phone footage from visitors. All of this became puzzle pieces for detectives to join together. The footage helped investigators build a timeline of the attack. It also showed how fast the operation was and how the group left the museum grounds. Surveillance gaps mattered. At the exact point the lift was parked, external camera coverage had not been in place on the wall where the thieves entered, or cameras were not aimed at the right angle. That blind spot allowed the team to work on the window with less chance of being seen on the live monitor. Internal cameras did capture the smash of the cases, but the external blind side had given the thieves the window they needed to reach the gallery and leave before guards could stop them. The choice of that particular wall and balcony let them reach the gallery without using a front entrance. Investigators said the group had planned the operation and had used tactics designed to lower the chance of an immediate capture. Evidence left at the scene began to point to suspects. A helmet abandoned near the lift produced a trace of DNA that detectives matched in their databases. Fingerprints on the lift controls and on tools added to the trail. The combination of biological traces and captured movement narrowed the field of possible perpetrators. The timeline moved quickly from the scene to arrests. Police in the capital followed leads from the scene. Within days, a small number of people were detained as the investigation moved forward. Police located 2 suspects linked to the operation. At airports and in suburbs, officers arrested suspects who were reported to have been preparing to leave the country. One was stopped at the international airport as he tried to board a flight. The other was held in a suburban area outside the city. Officials said some of the arrested people had criminal records for past robberies. Both men had past convictions for robbery, and investigators said traces from the scene helped connect them to the raid. The results of this work led to further searches in places where the suspects had ties. French authorities continued to hunt for other participants and those who might have helped move or hide the stolen objects. Selling such items is fraud. Investigators warned that the historic objects are hard to sell in their original form. The items are well known to museums, auction houses, and collectors of cultural property. Public records and photographs make the items traceable. That reality makes some paths for the thieves risky and forces them into hard options. Experts said the most likely outcomes for stolen pieces that cannot be openly sold are breaking the items down, melting the metal, cutting the stones into smaller pieces, or hiding them until pressure eases, and hope someone will buy them privately. Each choice destroys part of the object's history and makes recovery less likely. International bodies that track stolen art added the items to their lists. Museums and auction houses were warned to be alert for attempts to sell or move the pieces. Interpol and other agencies offered to assist with tracking and recovering stolen heritage items. Detectives watched known markets where converted gems can appear. They made contact with auction houses and private dealers and placed the items on stolen art watch lists to watch border crossings and suspicious consignments. Officials urged anyone who might be offered the objects to report them, and said international policing agencies were notified and watching for attempts to move the items across borders. The museum and the state asked for public help and set up contact points for people to share information that might lead to recovery. After the theft, the museum and public officials faced questions about security. Political leaders reacted quickly. The head of state called the theft a blow to the nation and promised that those who were responsible would face the law. Ministers in charge of interior security and culture spoke of the need to protect heritage and to work with police to recover the items. The museum director spoke to parliamentary committees. Lawmakers asked for reports on security shortfalls and on whether earlier recommendations had been implemented. Critics pointed to prior warnings and to pressure on resources and security staff. The event became a focus in political debate over public safety and the protection of public institutions. The government said it would review systems and speed up planned upgrades. The ministry overseeing culture said it would accelerate plans for better camera coverage and for other protections around the building exterior. The museum reopened to visitors after a few days, but the room that held the royal collection remained closed while investigators continued their work. The case remained active as authorities pursued leads at home and abroad. The public waited for the outcome and for any recovered items to be returned to their place in the national collection. If you record footage near a museum, keep it safe. If you saw something the day of the theft, pass it to investigators. That kind of material can be the thin line between a crime that is solved and a crime that fades into the market for altered jewels. The slow work continues, and the trail that began at a wall by the river may still lead to the pieces taken, if enough detail is placed in the hands of those who are looking.